Welcome to the Jerusalem Fund Gallery. Today we're talking with the artist Helen Zughaib about her solo exhibition, Thoughts on the Spring. Helen, right now we happen to have spring in Washington, D.C., but I know that the content of your exhibition is more about the Arab Spring.
Mm-hmm.
Could you talk to us a little bit about the progression of your paintings from the initial Arab Spring painting that you did in 2011 through the paintings that continued through the exhibition?
Right. When we talked about this exhibition, the Arab Spring hadn't happened, and we were on the calendar for this month in 2012, and nothing like that had happened. The turmoil in the Middle East and Tunisia hadn't happened. And as I began working towards this show, that was a huge event last March 2011. And at that time, the first piece that I did, which is an invitation piece, was hopeful and optimistic, and I felt I was reflecting the sentiments in the Arab world as well as Western democracies in looking at the situation in a hopeful, positive way. And as the time progressed, the situation didn't necessarily reflect that incredible optimism and almost giddiness that was initially in March in 2011. And I think as my work progressed over the year, it reflects a more somber look at what is happening and depicts a little bit of a more realistic reflection on the situation.
Yes, you've titled a number of those pieces in some sequential order, Arab Spring 1, 2, 3, 4. And as we go across the images, we do see that the images change slightly. There's still flowers involved, but they're much darker in background, and the way that the flowers are depicted is somewhat different, and that does lead us through to, for example, your what I like to think of as the garden picture, which is also titled Arab Spring. And so maybe you would like to talk about that, why that is also titled Arab Spring.
Well, for me, that landscape, those spring pieces were centered on the female primarily, and I wanted to be a little bit more general and reflect the Middle East as a whole, and I did it as a landscape with beauty and chaos combined in a way together and difficult to pull apart, which I feel reflect what I know of the Middle East and what I've seen of the Middle East. This is almost this contrast between beauty and chaos and turmoil. It's always so intertwined.
A lot of this exhibition shows pieces that are somewhat new in style for you, kind of an expansion of your original style. I'd like to talk for a minute about the two memorial pieces that you made, one of which is about the males who sacrificed and died during the uprisings. Can you talk a little bit about both of those pieces?
I can. I think as a woman artist, I identify with women immediately, so for the most part, that's what's reflected in my paintings. And as I was going on with this exhibition, I felt like I wanted to do something to reflect the sacrifice that a lot of men are also making for the strides that they hope to see in the Middle East, without getting too political. But so I took a dishdasha that I'm familiar with, that I grew up with, and I used the same theme of the flowers that continued through all the spring pieces. And I had the image rising. I'm sure you'll be able to see it on the video, but this piece is called Spring Memorial, as is the kafia piece, and it is reflecting the sacrifices that people are making for a possible new beginning.
We also see a number of pieces, such as Abaya Driving and what I call the Taaraq and Ramsey pieces, that reflect your wonderful sense of humor. And would you like to talk a little bit about what occasioned, especially the Taaraq and Ramsey series?
Well, when I was overseas now, a year and a half ago for an exhibit in Beirut, I was in Jordan and Syria with my family, and in traveling around, I was very aware of the mashrabiyas that are so incredibly beautiful and have a lot of meaning. And so I used that concept in this exhibit with, as you say, a sense of humor. And the Taaraq and Ramsey pieces reflect the fact that who is behind those screens and what are they doing, and are they hiding, are they being seen from the street, what are those women saying. I use Taaraq and Ramsey as sort of typical Arab names, and I am playing on a series I did called Changing Perceptions. So I am using a Western artist, Liechtenstein in this case, to sort of borrow from him and make it a new piece with screens that I painted from Home Depot, which get to another level of domesticity. And so it was fun to do, and people seem to have been responding really well to
Very
them.
much so,
Yeah.
yes. A lot of people have asked a little bit about your technique.
Mhm.
I know that you use gouache, and not everyone is familiar with that medium. Could you talk a little bit about how gouache works and
Sure.
why you use it?
Yeah, well, gouache is an opaque watercolor and comes in tubes. I mix my own colors. I use very, very small brushes, and they have to be changed all the time because the point gets dull or what have you, and I can't get the preciseness that I want with a brush. And this gouache has been used in illustrated manuscripts, in Persian manuscripts, and Indian miniatures. A lot of Asian work uses gouache, and so I've been using this now for, I don't know, 20 years, and I feel like I can control it and get the result that I want from using it.
For our last question, we've noticed that in this exhibition, a lot of the work is very personal,
Mm-hmm.
Even more so than perhaps some of the other things that
Mm-hmm.
you've shown in the past. What I'm thinking of specifically is Map of Home
Mm-hmm.
and the other painting called Circle Home. Can you talk a little bit about how these came to be?
I can. I was invited for an exhibit in Beirut, and it was sort of the first time since having been evacuated in late 1975 that I really tried to visually reflect on some of my feelings about going home for the first time, going back there. And so Map of Home that you're referring to is a self-portrait with the map of Lebanon superimposed over my head and my heart, reflecting my tie to that country, and specifically Beirut. I have the blue and the brown reflecting the sea and the mountains, and of course my inevitable cat, and also the hand of Fatima that my aunt gave me from Jordan. And it is a very personal piece that I call Map of Home, and it is not, I didn't want to sell it, so I'm going to keep that in my collection. And the other piece that you're referring to, Circle Home, is really about almost a larger issue, though very personal to me, is this idea of identity and going and coming, and where we start from and where we end and where we come back and where do we call home. And a lot of Arab Americans have the same sort of struggle in terms of being forced to leave or leaving voluntarily. So I wrote the word bait, home, over and over and over again, almost turning it into a sort of mantra. And and in this meditative sort of circle quality that there is to it's a reflective painting, and I think a lot of people can identify with that as well.
Thank you so much, Helen. We very much enjoyed having the exhibition at the Jerusalem Fund.
Thank you, Dagmar. Thank you.